Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In front of me here I have the NeoFlow version 2 lily pipe set from Aquario. This lily pipe set has actually been on the market for quite some time already, but I actually finally bought myself this set. I've used several different types of lily pipes over the years and I've never really been that happy with any of them, primarily because they all come in a fixed configuration, whereas the NeoFlow lily pipe set from Aquario is actually completely modular. On the front of the box we have a depiction of the lily pipe set in its full configuration, and at the very bottom we can see that this is the medium size set, which is meant for 13mm tubing, but you can also get this lily pipe set in a large configuration which is meant for 17mm tubing. Otherwise there's not really much on the outside of the box except for a QR code still. This will take you directly to Aquario's main site where you can read up a little bit more about the NeoFlow set, but I would say let's get everything out of the box so we can have a closer look at the actual lily pipes. So, in the box you just get an instruction manual. I'm going to put this and the box aside. And then we are left with the lily pipes and all of the modules in this little styrofoam holder. But I would say we start off with the two main things inside of the styrofoam, and that are the lily pipes. Now you get two lily pipes obviously, one for the inflow, one for the outflow. One is a little bit shorter than the other one, so you can actually decide on which one you want to use for your inflow or your outflow. And I am actually quite impressed with the clarity of these lily pipes. Now they are made out of plastic and they are actually pretty damn durable. They are extremely flexible, and since they are made out of plastic, you don't need to be that concerned about them cracking or breaking like acrylic or glass. Plus you can also easily cut these with a saw or with a pipe cutter, depending on if you do want to shorten the pipes. The lily pipes, they are pretty long, they go pretty deep into the water depending on which one you want to use as your outflow. So if you do want to shorten it, it is pretty easy to do. The next thing that you actually get are the pipe holders that just slot onto the side of the glass. I very much prefer these over the suction cups. You can always see the suction cups through the glass, and with these tank mounts that basically just hang on the top, you actually hardly see them at all. We will have to see how these fare compared to other tank mounts that I've used in the past, but everyone for themselves. But if you like suction cups more than tank mounts, then you can definitely use the lily pipes with suction cups as well. Another thing that you actually get that is completely separate is actually the inlet grate, which is actually quite nice, especially since you can take the inlet grate completely off. Means that you can actually clean your lily pipes and the grate pretty damn easily, which makes life just so much easier. All the other lily pipes that I've used in the past, the grate would obviously be incorporated into the lily pipe, which meant that you couldn't really fully clean your lily pipe. So with this you can actually just take it off, which is quite nice, so it makes maintenance just so much easier. Then we get to the next modular bit, which is this tiny little 90-degree elbow. And this tiny little elbow is actually going to enable us to actually direct the flow into any direction that we actually please. Again, you just have to squish it onto the end of your lily pipe. And the nice thing about this is that once your lily pipe is actually mounted to your tank, you can actually just turn the elbow into any direction, meaning you don't need to turn the entire lily pipe to direct your flow, which I find is actually quite neat. I find it just looks way neater if both lily pipes are always facing in the same direction, and with this little elbow, well, you can just point it wherever you actually want to, and well, you can have your flow going to wherever you feel like it. Once the little 90-degree elbow is connected to our lily pipe, we can actually get our next little module, which is our surface skimmer. In the box you get another little pipe that has a notch on the outside and a notch on the inside, plus a little hole on the top. This just connects to our little 90-degree elbow, and then you actually get two smaller tubes that are also notched and are cut in a 45-degree angle to different lengths. So depending on how low you want your inflow inside of the water, you can choose on which length you actually want to have where you are going to be connecting the skimmer on. Again, very, very simple. You just take the notched side with the 45-degree angle, squish it into the hole, and there is our inlet pipe for the surface skimmer. Then you also have your little micro surface skimmer that floats on top of the water. This you can then just slide over the little pipe and it is going to float, so it will self-adjust itself depending on how much water is slowly but surely being lost through evaporation. Now, another neat little thing that you can most probably barely even see are these two little propeller look-alike plastic things. At first I had absolutely no idea what to do with them until I actually realized that the top of the surface skimmer has three little notches in, and you can actually take this little propeller look-alike thing, which is actually meant to be a grate for the top of the surface skimmer. It basically just notches into the top, and this is going to prevent leaves or any sort of bigger materials going into your surface skimmer and going into your outlet pipe and actually blocking your flow, which is quite neat. I'm definitely quite keen to actually, well, test this out. So quite neat that you actually get two of these in case you actually lose one or in case one breaks. They are pretty thin, but they do feel quite sturdy. It's more of a case of losing them than actually breaking them. So I'm going to take the one and put it back in here, and I'm going to keep the other little grate on top of the surface skimmer here so that we can actually test it out just now. Now the second module that comes with this lily pipe set is a water flow diffuser. It's a cylindrical water diffuser, and just like the water skimmer, we can also just mount it straight onto our little elbow. And this way we are just going to diffuse the flow. Obviously we're not going to have a complete jet of water going throughout our tank, but this is going to, well, shoot the water into either direction. But you might want more water to flow into a certain direction than into the other direction. And well, Aquario has also kindly provided two of these little grates. These just slide onto the circular diffuser, and if you only add one grate to one side, this is going to allow more water to flow out into one direction. But if you don't want to have a lot of flow at all in your tank, well, obviously you get two of these grates and you can reduce the flow quite a bit, especially if you got sensitive plants or fish that don't like a lot of flow. And well, lastly, obviously we can connect both of these together so that we can have our surface skimmer and our flow diffuser on the same lily pipe, which is actually quite cool. I also literally just realized that the little grate on the top of the skimmer actually prevents the surface skimmer from sliding all the way down the pipe. So I'm guessing that that actually also might be the purpose of it, especially once the water level gets to a certain spot. The surface skimmer is just stopped at the end of the pipe. But I would say I'm just going to mount everything up to the tank next to me. I've just recently planted my 3-foot tank a few days ago, and it is slowly but surely coming along. There is quite a layer of biofilm on the surface of the water, so we can test the surface skimmer out quite nicely. But as I said, let me just quickly get everything built up there, and then we can see the surface skimmer do its job, and we can also test out the flow diffuser. So let me get everything hooked up quickly. Okay, I have the lily pipes installed and I actually very much like the look of it. I like the clear plastic. I used to have stainless steel lily pipes on here, but with the clear plastic it just looks a little bit more cleaner, so I actually very much like it. I do also have the surface skimmer on here. I would say the only thing to do is to actually turn it on and see the surface skimmer work. As I mentioned, there is quite a lot of biofilm on the top of this tank, so we will be able to see the surface skimmer actually work. But let's switch it on and, well, see how it actually flows. So far, I'm actually quite happy with the surface skimmer. It was a little bit of a fiddle just to get everything adjusted right. You do need to turn the little 45-degree cut pipe into the right directions so that it is not going to suck in too much air. Otherwise, you're just going to have a tank full of bubbles. But it didn't even take 5 minutes and the surface is completely clear. All of the biofilm has now, well, been blown into the water column and it's going to get sucked up through the inlet over time. The tank got a little bit cloudy, obviously, through all of this, and it's going to take a bit of time to clear. Otherwise, so far, I'm quite happy, but there's still one more module to obviously attach and test out. At the moment, we just have a jet of water going throughout the tank. Let's actually put on the flow diffuser. We can actually have a quite nice visual representation of how everything is going to work. All we need to do is just readjust the surface skimmer so that it sucks in some air again, and then we can actually see the bubbles being moved around, and then we can see through the bubbles how the flow diffuser is actually going to work. So I took the flow diffuser back off again, and I'm actually quite impressed on how well it actually works, especially as soon as you take one grate off and leave one grate on. It actually does take all the flow out to one side, a little bit out the other side, but it does really do its job. It reduces the flow quite a bit, especially if you have both grates on. It can actually reduce the flow quite a bit. So if you do have any sort of sensitive fish, they are going to be happy in your tank, and you are still going to get quite a good water flow even with the grates on. But I'm going to be running my tank just in the jet form. I want a lot of flow throughout the back coming all around. I'm also very happy with the surface skimmer. It did an absolutely great job. In less than 5 minutes, not even, the entire surface was completely clear, and it's definitely the module that I'm going to run on this tank for most of its time. Most probably not all the time, especially once the tank is fully cycled and all of the plants have fully grown in. Then the biofilm on the surface is also going to slowly but surely reduce, though all in all I'm actually pretty happy with this set. Though unfortunately there are a few things that I don't like about this set, and we'll start off with the lily pipe hangers at the very top here. They are pretty nice, I do very much like them, but the screws are pretty fiddly to work with. So the screws actually go into the holder, and then you actually have a little nut that goes onto the screw so that you can actually screw down the clamp and actually fix the lily pipes into place. It is a little bit hard to actually screw in the screws to actually tighten the clamps on the glass properly, since there's no real hold on the screws. But once you actually have them nicely tightened down and the lily pipes are filled with water, then they also weigh down the clamps as well. So it's not really that big of a problem, but the first install is a little bit fiddly. And talking about fiddly things, well, the surface skimmer is also a little bit fiddly, especially the little pipe with a 45-degree angle. You do have to play around quite a bit to actually adjust it to catch the flow of the water in order to actually provide quite a bit of suction. If you press it in too far, or if you have the 45-degree angle turned a little bit too much into the flow, then it's going to have way too much suction, and then it's just going to suck in air, and you are going to constantly hear bubbling and obviously have micro bubbles go throughout all of your tank, which is going to impede the visibility a little bit. Obviously this is not really a big problem, but the noise can get pretty irritating after some time. The other thing as well, that as the water level slowly but surely drops through evaporation, the surface skimmer is going to go lower and lower, which means at some point there is air going to get sucked in, and you will either have to readjust it manually again or obviously fill up your tank. So there is a little bit of constant manual adjustment. But otherwise, I really do like the set. I like the clarity of the plastic. I do like the modularity that you can, well, decide if you want to have the surface skimmer, if you want to reduce the flow, or if you just want to take everything off and just go for a straight jet. So it is quite nice. The price on this set is also pretty reasonable. It falls into sort of the same ballpark as any sort of other, well, stainless steel or plastic or acrylic lily pipe set. So if you are looking for a clear lily pipe with a surface skimmer and a flow reduction, definitely have a look at the NeoFlow lily pipes from Aquario. I very much like them. Maybe you would like them as well. But otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below and let me know down in the comments if you have used the NeoFlow lily pipes before and if you like them or not. Or let me know what lily pipes you use in your tank. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell not to miss out on future videos. And I would say, as always, I'll catch you in the next one.